You ask a good question. Why would you want to study physics? One reason is that if you have a physics problem to think about, you'll never need to be bored.
This is James. James is not thinking about physics and is bored. This is Erica. Erica is thinking about physics and is not bored. She's also late to meet James. Ready to play?
I was playing. This ability not to be bored can be very useful if you're marooned on a desert island not provided with a volleyball, or if certain conceptions of the afterlife are accurate.
Physics also gives you a new and useful way in which to think about the world. Say your doctor suggests that you undergo knee replacement. It's a fairly standard procedure, but your doctor also wants you to be aware that there is a small chance that you will die as a result of it. Having been trained in physics, you might look up the rate at which knee replacement patients die and the number of deaths per 100,000 miles driven in a car. With a little algebra, you convert one to the other to find how many miles you would have to drive and how many years of driving that corresponds to have the same risk of death as in the knee replacement. This would give you a way of making sense of the small number of deaths per large other numbers and enable you to make an informed decision on whether to have the surgery. On a less somber note, physics gives you a whole new set of things to get excited about.
It's rotationally invariant.
When you have to shoot, don't talk.
You want to find a tower to drop this off? Many people catch the physics bug when they realize that physics is beautiful. For example, consider one of Zeno's paradoxes. Zeno was an ancient Greek philosopher who wanted to show that motion made no sense. One way he tried to do this was by saying that in order for a runner to complete a race, he would first need to run half the total distance, then half the remaining half of the total distance, then half the remaining quarter of the total distance, and so on for an infinite number of operations. Because it would take an infinite number of operations, Zeno claimed that no runner could ever complete a race, and so motion was nonsense. Let's see if Zeno was right.
For constant velocity, distance x equals velocity v times time t. We can divide both sides by v to get that the time is distance divided by velocity. Let's choose units in which x and v have the same numerical value so that t is 1 in these units. That's what standard physics tells us.
So what is Zeno saying in his physics? There's half the race, followed by half of the remaining half, followed by half of the remaining quarter, and so on. Well, that certainly looks bad. It has an infinite number of terms added up. How do we deal with that? Well, as bad as that looks, this is actually part of the beauty. Let's play around with this equation a little bit. First, subtract 1/2 from both sides. Now factor out 1/2 on the right side. Now notice that what's in parentheses winds up being the same as what we wrote down originally as Zeno's t. If you're not sure you believe me, try writing out a couple of additional terms and see that the pattern continues. See it? Now a little more algebra. Subtract 1/2 t from both sides. Add 1/2 to both sides. And finally multiply both sides by 2, and you get t equals 1.
That's what we got from standard physics. Zeno's physics and standard physics agree. There's no paradox here, although some of Zeno's paradoxes haven't been resolved. The thing I find beautiful here is that we started with something large and unwieldy, a sum with an infinite number of terms. By a few manipulations, we were able to reduce it to something very simple and get the answer t equals 1, which told us something important, namely that you can't conclude that motion is nonsense from the argument Zeno used here.
You can see the beauty of physics without ever picking up a pencil, though. Once you get some of the basic concepts down, you start to see them everywhere, because they are everywhere. The world becomes less mysterious, and yet more so. You can turn anything you see into a puzzle, and you start to see the hidden wonder in even the most seemingly ordinary objects, and appreciate the beauty of how remarkable the world really is.
So these are some of the reasons for studying physics. One other is that people will actually pay you for the joy of thinking about it. In 2012, the median value of the joy was nearly $107,000. That'll buy a lot of music downloads by bands such as Timbuk3, who might have a perspective different from the one adopted in this video.
So that's it. With physics, you never need to be bored, you get a new and exciting way of looking at things, there's beauty,
and you make obscure references to anti-nuclear bands from the 80s. Oops, I was thinking about physics.
let's just see, I am recording her at the moment, so this is the first